Joining me now is the panel: Michael Kroger, former Victorian Liberal President; Steve Conroy, former Labor Senator and Cabinet Minister. Steve, was it last week or maybe the week before as well? You laughed at this man when he bet you that Anthony Albanese could be a one-term Prime Minister.
I've still got my money on the table. I'm waiting for him to offer up
but surely
he'll match dinner.
You would not have expected 50-50 just 18 months after.
No, I think the government, as they're going through this parliamentary sitting fortnight, would be disappointed with those numbers. I don't think there's any question about that. But I don't see Peter Dutton, as Tom's very good analysis there showed, the Liberals are sitting on 63. They're not even in Killia-forming governments. Yeah, 63 seats in the House of Representatives. They're not within Killia-forming governments. But that's not. That doesn't mean that the government doesn't need to have a good sit down and have a discussion about why our primary vote is back below just below the election that we won with the primary vote, only 1 point higher. So it is still
yeah, but don't forget that primary vote was less than a third of voters. I mean, it was a very low primary vote to start with, and now it's under even that. Why has it gone so bad?
Well, I think the government have had a horror few weeks. I mean, you've had...
Yeah, but it doesn't come out of the clear blue sky.
Well, you know, High Court decisions did come out of the sky.
No,
a refugee boat turned up. That came out of the sky.
Why would it have turned up?
Then we've had the Reserve Bank making another completely moronic decision to put interest rates up just after they paused them for a month. And they've got no justification for doing it. So all of that together gives you a bit of the eye of a storm situation for the government.
Government's unlucky. Just unlucky.
Yeah, like Sevi Ballesteros, he used to say, the more I practice, the luckier I get. No, look, the government's losing on every issue. The disastrous voice, which has now still got 2 planks of it still to go. Immigration levels out of control, interest rates out of control, cost of living out of control. Too many trips people think he's taken overseas, boat arrivals, criminals being let out of jail, Bowen running into a fog on energy. They're losing on every single issue, Andrew. And this bloke, as I said last week, he only needs to lose 12 for Dutton to have a majority in the reps.
Well, so, only 12. 12 is a lot.
Well, 11 if you give us back Claire and Russell Broadbent's seat. It means he needs 11. So it goes from 57 to 68. He goes from 78 to 67, and then you count on the independents. He's got 4 Greens, but he might lose a few of those. I've got 6 where he can't win. Albanese can't. There's 6 seats where he can't win, and he's in trouble in 14 or 15 others. So it's hard for Peter Dutton to get to 76, but he can certainly get into low 70s, more than Albanese, and then rely on the independents to be Prime Minister. The likelihood at this stage that the independents will be making a decision, like they did a decade ago, on who should be Prime Minister with neither. Well,
some of those teals say, "Oh, we're." But can I be as tough as you as I was on Steve? Only Labor lost 4 points, but the Liberals only gained 1 in the primary vote. So the voters saying, "Don't like Labor, but don't yet trust the Liberals." What do they need to do?
Well, they've got to release some policies. Of course, they're not necessarily going to us. We haven't released any policies yet. So when Peter Dutton does, and I hope it's sooner rather than later, they'll win more votes. But this notion about Dutton being unpopular, you know, Thatcher was unpopular. So was Malcolm Fraser, John Howard, Tony Abbott. Find me ever.
What was Howard, Mr. 17%? Why does he bother?
Yeah,
of course, he lost the lead.
Why does he bother? John Howard.
But here's another thing. Labor lost a lot on the Voice, which was a complete frolic, total distraction. I wonder whether you could say exactly the same of Chris Bowen's global warming crusade, which just seeing power bills go through the roof. He doubled down last week, won't tell us how much it cost, off to a UN conference next month. I mean, there must be people in the Labor Party worried.
Well, I hope you
worried that it's gone way off the reservation.
I hope you keep focusing on climate change, Andrew, in the next 18 months, because this is an issue that the Liberals lost the last election on, and I would think that they will lose the next election if they focus on it. I think if they stick to cost of living, keep trying to blame Labor for interest rates and petrol prices.
mate,
but I think
that's
if
ahistorical.
you can convince them, if you can convince them to stick on climate change, then I think you will lead them to another disastrous election loss.
Kevin Rudd lost his leadership on climate change. Julia Gillard lost her leadership in part because, the government I lead will not impose a carbon tax, right? She lost it. Malcolm Turnbull lost his leadership on global warming. I tell you what. And Tony Abbott won it on Axe the Tax, remember?
We went to the last election on a carbon, on a
Morrison was so toast by then, you could have promised a gorilla in every home and you still would have won. What do you make?
No, well, I don't agree. I think cost of living is obviously the biggest issue, and Albanese. The problem is, if you say to people, what is your impression of this government, they're going to say, what have they done? The most, the most obvious thing people will say is, yeah, he wasted $500 million on that voice, and he's still got a couple more things to go, and he's been overseas.
Michael, I haven't met one person since the voice vote was held that has mentioned the voice again. Not one person.
No, people are still waiting.
Shows how unimportant.
Well, don't worry. The treaty's coming, and reparations and the Makarrata Commission got to be coming soon. We're just waiting for the period of reflection to take place. So that's got to come back. And don't forget, he's effectively promised to go for a republic after the next election.
That's not going to...
This is where Albanese's completely lost touch with the working middle class. If Dutton's policies are distinctly directed towards the working middle class, he probably wins.
I think that'd probably be the case. Stephen Conroy, Michael Kroger, we shall see. Thank you both so much for your time.